Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, providing more than 41,000 jobs in the production of wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details at choosewood.com.
This is St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Last week, the New York Times published a piece by journalist Ron Stodgill that featured St. Louis in its Walks Around the World series. Stodgill, who's based in Columbia, Missouri, followed a path downtown where Black St. Louis history is highlighted and celebrated. And he started his walk at Pillars of the Valley, the art installation that memorializes the lost neighborhood of Mill Creek Valley, just outside St. Louis City SC's stadium. Earlier this year, I spoke with the artist behind Pillars of the Valley, Damon Davis, and with former resident of the raised neighborhood, Vivian Gibson, who authored a memoir about her childhood there called The Last Children of Mill Creek. They joined us right after the pillars were unveiled at an intimate event with other former residents and elected officials. I asked Damon and Vivian how they felt seeing the Pillars of the Valley debut. Here's Damon.
I feel great. Yes, it's overwhelming to a degree because we've been working on it for so long. I met Ms. Gibson at the beginning of this journey, and it's been about 5 years working on this. Yeah. And so Pillars of the Valley is finally coming to fruition, and we still got more to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for Damon because this is a beautiful art installation, and it so represents the community that I grew up in and I love. And so I'm excited, I'm happy, I'm proud.
Damon, can you describe what the memorial looks like?
Yeah. So when you see it, there's like a forest of about 8 15-foot tall granite and limestone pillars that sit directly in front of the new MLS St. Louis City Soccer Stadium. And on the ground, there are lot lines, right, that were drawn specifically there because there were actual homes. So at the base of, I guess, each outline of the lot line is the number of the house that was there. And it continues east and inside of other, I guess, greenery or shrubs that also draw out lot lines for each of those houses. We thought it was very important that you understood that you were standing where someone's home was when you're there. Also, we have names on a plinth that are adjacent to the main installation that are from the 1940 census that tell you exactly who lived on that block right there, right? Along with an artist statement and then a map of the greater area of Mill Creek. And also you can see what buildings actually still exist.
Vivian, how did it look to you, and how would you describe the memorial?
Well, I love the outline of the houses that are there, and they seem to be to scale, the size of the houses with the addresses there, and people can come if they have an idea that their family lived in the 2100 block of Market Street. They can come there and see that space. I think that's great. I have been describing the pillars as 12 feet, so now I'm glad to know it's 15. They're lovely. They have quotes etched in them from former residents. I have a quote. You can go look for mine.
Oh, sure.
And but it's just beautiful, and the scale of it is just so incredible because it's an entire city block.
How did it feel specifically for you, Vivian, having grown up in Mill Creek, to see people in that area moving around the memorial?
It was moving, and it was very moving to see other residents, people who describe themselves as children or the last children of Mill Creek, and they're in their 70s and 80s, and it made me realize how timely this installation, my book, is, that these people can read it and they're so proud. Mm-hmm. If the St. Louis question is, what high school did you go to? The Mill Creek question is, where did you live? Mm-hmm. And people give their addresses, and it's just really wonderful.
Yeah. So what did that community look like, Vivian?
It was a community that's very, very similar to what is now Lafayette Square and Soulard. Same architecture, same housing stock. It was densely populated. There were no parks. The trees were in the backyard. But it was very much an urban setting, and people a walking community. So people were on the street, where you don't see that downtown anymore. People were walking to streetcars and buses and jobs, that sort of thing. So it was a very lively, close-knit community.
And Damon, how much of that description, that Vivian has provided, animated your imagination as you were designing the memorial?
I think all like not only Miss Gibson, but I had the privilege of having access to a lot of these elders that once lived there. So throughout the process, I was pulling on either direct communication or recorded interviews, imagery. But I was always at the front of my mind. I wanted to make some that people that actually lived there could. It resonated with them more than anybody else. And so along the whole time I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about their history, like history specific to them, and also time. And so that's why you mentioned the shadows. So it's two things happening there. One, it's an hourglass, right, a symbol of time. But also, depending on what time you're standing out there, those things are moving like a sundial. So time is always at the center of the project.
And speaking of time, you said it was about 5 years from beginning to this unveiling.
Yeah.
Why did it take so much time, and what was occurring in that period?
A lot of planning, a lot like my original drawings and stuff. Like a lot of different inceptions of the project. Also, this is the biggest project I've ever done, and also my first foray into architecture and how to get things that big to actually stay there and stand up. From talking to different the architects that were helping me at LJC, just learning what could actually happen and what could, just refining it to make it the most perfect thing possible, because you only get one shot at something like this, and it's going to be there long after us. So I just wanted to make sure I got it right for the people in Mill Creek.
Now, Damon, I know that you are a St. Louis native, and I understand that you were not familiar with Mill Creek Valley for most of your time, living, growing up here.
Yeah.
What does Pillars of the Valley mean to you in that regard?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I grew up in East St. Louis, and I come from a family that was very militant and pro-black. So I thought that I was getting taught Black history all of it. Like, it wasn't for 1 month. It was all the time. My dad had I had one homework from school, and my father had a different set of things that I had to learn for him, right? So it was really mind-blowing that it's something this close to me, that was such a thriving community with so many prominent Black people, but also just different class levels, but just that there was an ecosystem of Blackness in the center of St. Louis, and I never heard it. It was mind-blowing to me, and I want to make sure that no other kids grew up like me not knowing about this place. Yeah.
We're speaking with artist Damon Davis, who is the artist behind Pillars of the Valley, which is the new memorial that has been erected by the St. Louis Soccer Stadium, and Vivian Gibson, who is the author of a memoir called The Last Children of Mill Creek. And I want to pick up with that question to you. What does Pillars of the Valley, as a memorial, as an action, mean to you as someone who experienced what is now no longer there? No
longer there. We have not been erased after all. That was my big fear. When I was ever talking about Mill Creek, I would hear, I never heard of it. Where was it? And so now there's something permanent there that children for generations to come could ask, what was Mill Creek? Where was it? How did it happen? What happened to it? Ask those questions and do the research and read about it and get stories that are from people who actually lived there.
So what would you like people to feel or learn from the memorial, and particularly given the things that you have pointed out about what stood out to you?
What I would like is for people to not think of it as a slum. I heard that even today, that people resented hearing that it was described as a slum, because there were some very lovely homes that were there. There were portions that were more run down, but those are the only pictures you could find in archives, in newspapers. And so I don't think it was truly representative.
Damon, at the beginning of the conversation, you talked about being proud of the memorial and that there's more left to do.
Yeah.
What is left to do that you would like to be personally involved with?
Yeah, well, I will say that, like, literally, the monument is not complete. That's just one piece of the monument. It's going to go, it's going to be roughly a mile long, and it will end at Harris Stowe State University. So there will be more pillars specifically on the street to commemorate Mill Creek. But we also thinking about a few other things, because the legendary Negro League baseball team, the St. Louis Stars, they played right in front of Harris Stowe at that field. There were multiple venues, like the Booker T. Washington Theater, the People's Financial Building was there, one of the first black institutions in St. Louis. So we plan to make sure people know some layers about Mill Creek and the people that live there. So stay tuned. Within the next 2 to 3 years, I'm hoping the full monument will be erected, and then people it'll be there forever for people to learn more about that place.
So 3 to 4 years plus 5, it's like a
no,
decade. Yeah, good things come with time, right?
You got to.
With the materials, Damon, that were used, did you choose those very intentionally to deliver a certain kind of message? And then what were some of the things that you did not have control over, because these things need to stand up to weather and all sorts of other conditions?
Yeah. So one thing, well, definitely the materials are always important. The materials are part of the story that we're telling. Mm-hmm. I definitely wanted black, granted black, like for black people, and black is something that you gotta confront. Something that big, like it's not, you could see it from the street, but if you get up on it, you see it towers over you. There's also, with the inscription of people's, the quotes, we wanted to make sure that the actual people from there were a part of the actual monument. And I guess what I learned from this, because again, it's the biggest project I've ever done, like what it takes to sewers and lights and all of that. And keep in mind, this was a creek here, so the topography of the ground is something we had to take into consideration. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything that you two would like to say to one another? I mean, you met at the beginning of this journey. I will play a little bit of the fly on the wall with a hot mic. Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to?
I just want to thank you, Ms. Gibson, because you have been not only a source of knowledge and like actual information and inspiration, but you have also came to my aid in times that I needed some backing against other entities that want other things to happen. So I just truly appreciate you taking me in from meeting me and just being a guiding light to make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and representing who I'm supposed to represent in this.
Thank you, Damon. That's lovely to hear. I feel like we're family. I feel like he's my son, so I'm proud in that sort of way for him. It turns out today we found out that he knows my son. He and my son are acquaintances and the same age. And so I was drawn to him in that way, and I certainly was there to support him and wanted to be there to support him. And I'm just so happy to be able to have a young black man do this for black people who are not here anymore. So just proud.
That was Vivian Gibson, author of The Last Children of Mill Creek, and Damon Davis, the artist behind Pillars of the Valley, a public art installation that was featured in a New York Times Walks Around the World piece that was published last week. I spoke with Damon and Vivian in February after Pillars of the Valley was officially unveiled outside CityPark.
This episode was produced by Maya Norfleet.
Our audio engineer is Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
St. Louis on the Air proudly supports local artists by using music from Life Creative Group.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations, and leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thank you.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.